Ah, yes, yes, I know Brenda, Peter Parrish, Mark Bell, and Terry. Did I mention Terry? Yeah. And various other people go down there, and I find it very, very interesting.
How long have you been engaged with any of the work there?
For about maybe 4 years. 4 years on and off going down there.
And what first attracted you to?
Terry, actually. Terry's stories of the forest, that really captured my imagination, because they were really very graphic sort of stories.
And what stories are these?
Well, his encounters with ETs within the forest.
So you're talking getting involved at the sort of year 2000, 2002?
Yeah, something like that, yes.
So this is well after the Rendlesham Forest UFO events of 19...
Yes, it is, yeah, well after.
Have you had any experiences with any of that kind of phenomena?
Not really. I haven't seen an ET, but I have seen lights and things like that. I've seen a sort of disc, which was about the size of a penny, 2-pence piece up in the sky high.
Is and that it was at Rendlesham?
At Rendlesham, yes. So you were sort of sitting at in chairs at track 10. And it was up there on the left-hand side, and quite high up, but it goes big, and it only lasted for a few seconds. So as it moved down, and it was a sort of orangey, peachy, yellow kind of pastel-y colour, and it just left its mark, you know, like circles. Yeah, at the same time I saw a red light come up from the ground, just on that barrier. And then went straight down again. So that was very odd, but that happened so quickly, you know, that...
so what's happening is that you're actually seeing the same kind of phenomena that the other people are seeing there.
Yeah, but I've been seeing much more dramatic stuff than I've seen. It's only because I've seen these odd flashes of lights and things like that that I can believe that they're stories.
So initially you didn't really believe their stories?
Oh yes, I believed them, but I just wanted to go and see for myself, but unfortunately I've never seen any ETs down there.
And what are the stories?
Well, encounters with ETs, you know, sort of, they...
Is this, and who is having the encounters with ETs, exactly?
Well, Terry is.
Yeah.
And I think Brenda Butler has.
Yeah. So the important thing is you've had experiences similar to what Brenda and others have had?
But not down there. Well, I've seen just enough to allow me to believe their stories.
And what are their stories? That what Brenda
because I feel they're sincere.
Okay.
Brenda in particular, I find her charming.
So you feel,
yeah.
Okay. So the point is, what singular thing sticks out to say, bingo, what they're saying is true?
There isn't a singular thing.
Well, what collective number of things?
Well, just lights and my photography.
Yes.
That's the important thing for me.
Yes.
And
so your pictures are coming up with the same kind of things.
Well, they're slightly different from Brenda's, but Brenda's are brilliant. Brilliant photographs.
What are you photographing? What kind of thing? You're talking about smokies and streakers and orbs and greys or some kind of beings or shadow people? Is that what you're saying?
No, I've seen a shadow person.
Where?
That was at the top of track 12, and it darted across thing, and it really was a shadow. It wasn't a solid human being.
Right. What kind of shape was it?
Man,
Humanoid?
like a man.
Was it clearly defined?
Yes, yeah. Well, how can I say it? It was a shadow. It was like a man had passed in front of a light and cast a shadow there, but there was no lights.
Was it coming towards you? Or?
No, it just went across the end of the track, and from one side to the other, and disappeared. By the time we got up there, I did look to see if there was anything there, but I couldn't see anything. But then it's dark, isn't it?
Yeah. So how do you see a black shadow in the darkness?
because it was lighter, the background was lighter, you know, like it's not totally dark. I mean, most of the time you can find yourself, you can find your way through the forest without any torches.
Right.
Brenda never uses a torch.
Yeah.
She knows her way around there very, very well. So it's the same as the first time I went there. I saw there was Peter Parrish, Brenda, myself, and Terry, and we're walking in a straight line up a track. Brenda's chatting to Peter. Terry's walking behind me, and I look up, and on the tree line, and just above the tree line, is this round black orb, but it was big. You know, like it was big, like probably you might say like the cabin part of a helicopter. It was that big.
Yeah.
And
Do you think it was a helicopter?
No, it was silent. You know, you'd know if it was a helicopter
What
around.
kind of night is this you're talking about?
Oh, we're talking about probably midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And
Is that the normal time you go down?
well, I think we try to go down there for 9 to half past, and then we don't leave until 3, 4 in the morning. But
Is there any particular reason you go down there at night? Why not? Do you see anything during the day?
I have been down during the day, but only with the Larry Warren meeting, you know, talk at Bentwaters. I haven't really been down during the day. I only know the forest in the dark.
And how many would be in the group when you go there?
Well, sometimes just Brenda, Terry and myself, and sometimes 1 or 2 other people. Terry's friend Don, who's a neighbour, he goes down there. And, well, really, you know, the last time I went down, of course, it was with our group, which is Mark and Martin, Vanessa and her husband Ron.
And what is your group as such?
Well, it's a support group.
Fine.
Yeah, so...
And what draws you up there? Just
Well, we're all drawn to it, actually. There's something very, very magical about the forest. I find it absolutely beautiful.
I mean, why not go to any other forest? Like,
Well, I'm sure there would be other forests. I mean, Brenda said, actually, at one time, I think I remember rightly, that she said that she'd been to other forests and found that she got nothing. But actually, I have been to the Black Park and got smokies during the day. That's over Uxbridge Way.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you got smokies in broad daylight.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Is
and
this under any kind of atmospheric condition? Like, would there be a lot of humidity? Or
no, it was a nice day at Black Park. It was I think actually it was Boxing Day. We go out as a family, so the children were with us, and I just took these photographs because the sun was sort of coming down late afternoon, so you've got this lovely golden light, and there came the smokies. And what was interesting was that I took 2 photographs of a log, our dog, and where that was fine. That turned out nicely. But as soon as the smoky turned out, then the whole of the rest of the photograph, the same scene, went dark. So the smoky actually took the flash, or took the bulk of the photograph.
So there was nothing there.
But you couldn't see
visual-
anything visible. You know, there was nothing visible. So sometimes I wonder if it's not some kind of gas. I mean, you could say at Rendlesham that maybe the smokies are from the sea, you know, mist from the sea, but you can see mist. You can catch it in your torchlight.
Yeah.
But these you cannot see. You cannot see at all. So I sometimes wonder if it is, because they have turned up at other places, so it isn't just completely peculiar to Rendlesham.
So you see faces in these smokies, or do they change?
Well, you
shape
can see.
between.
Well, I have one where it looks like a praying mantis, but the rest of them, you know, if you've got 2 black holes somewhere, you might see that as eyes.
Yeah,
But
so
you can see that. I'm open about that.
You're open and accepting that there's not actually the faces of aliens in these.
And no, I think Brenda has some that she has seen aliens there.
Yeah.
Alien faces. And what I find is peculiar is that if you're going to see something in Smokies, there it is only aliens.
And not
They're not other things, other, you know.
Have you had anybody else look at these pictures? I mean, do you think they could be incarnate spirits or some kind of thing?
No, I'm not going down that road because a lot of people think that that's what these might be. You know, like a lot of people think that orbs are spirits and so on. And
What
I've
about out of focus particles within the lens? I mean,
yeah, that's that. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Actually, that's something worth thinking about. Something in the lens.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like it's not breath.
Skeptics would say that's how they all are. They're just particles of dust close to the lens.
Oh, the orbs, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, because I've manufactured them.
And how have you manufactured
Well, I got my granddaughter out on the roof garden with an Andrex toilet roll and got her to beat it, because, you know, dust comes off it.
Yes.
So, and I caught a load of orbs doing that, and then spraying water.
Yeah.
That does it. I've taken it in
you're
drizzle, in
actively
fog.
Testing.
Testing everything, you know.
Is that part of what you're trying to do? So despite all the tests that you've done, you still believe that what's going on at Rendlesham is actually a paranormal, some kind of thing?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
What makes you feel that?
Because what I'm left with is stuff that I can't explain. I try and explain everything that I take in terms of photography or what I see. I try and explain it, and I try and to reproduce the situation there. I really do. It's like the last time we were there, we saw this tree full of white sap coming down it, and it looked like that something had crashed into the tree, caused an accident at the top of the tree with all the white sap coming down to the thing, and the branches were all broken off. And I felt the need to research that, and in my research I discovered that it's the pine stem borer.
Right.
It's a beetle.
It's a beetle, yeah.
It's a beetle, and it weakens a tree. I mean, it's not just one beetle. I mean, this tree was under great attack. And the reason the branches are broken off is that they become weak, and a high wind will just snap them off. And we found other trees also afflicted. But you see, so you can't allow yourself to get carried away.
Yeah. So do you think that explains what Peter Parrish is talking about?
No, he's talking about something different, and I'm not quite sure what he is talking about. So I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about.
So what about the things which they've seen, like these shadow people? Have you seen those?
Well, just the one shadow person, yes.
And when did that, how did that evolve? Tell me about that.
Well, we were just walking up track 12. There was a group of us. I don't know how many. And
what time of night?
Oh, any time between 9. No, and any time of the night, probably about midnight, because we'd all been going down. I think we'd all been down to the clearing, or Blair Witch, as she calls it, which is kind of a spooky place, and so I just saw the shadowy figure cut across the end of the road, you know, before we got to the road, but just at the end, and it just went from one side to the other, but it wasn't solid, you know, it just wasn't solid. It was.
What made you feel that it wasn't somebody just not dressed in black, or somebody in camouflage or something?
Because it had no, there was enough light that give it some background to stand out on, and it just walked across like a man. There was like the shadow of a man.
Was it a clearly hard-edged, defined shadow?
No.
Or was it a fuzzy shadow?
Just a bit blurry, yeah. Nothing to do with my eyes.
Have you seen anything else like that there, or have any of your other colleagues within the group seen anything like that there?
I've heard people say that they've seen shadow people up there. I hadn't heard about that, actually, until I'd seen this.
So this was the first time you...
Yeah, that's right. The first time I had any knowledge of shadow people. So
have you seen any other UFOs there?
Actually, no. No.
Have any of the other groups seen UFOs?
They have, yeah. They have.
Portals? There's some people have reported portals within the forest.
Yeah, that's right. Terry has got a lot of stories about the portals and things that have come out of like a doorway in the sky. Yeah.
Could you elucidate about that?
I don't actually like to, because they're his stories, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, that's just hearsay. But
So
I
you
do
haven't-
know that Jim Keith, in one of his books, he talks about plasma coming from experimental stations on laser and microwaves, etc. And that
Are you
they...
referring to the nearby base?
I am, actually, yeah.
What is that called?
Rendlesham. A BT experimental thing, place.
What does that do? What's it?
I don't know. I don't know too much about it at all. I mean, I think it's fairly secret. So, you know, a lot of stuff you hear is just hearsay. So,
Okay, quoting it as hearsay, what is the hearsay?
the hearsay actually is that the experiments have created a portal above Rendlesham, which
When did
is
that happen?
I don't know. I don't know at all. Before. No, I've lost it.
So what about this base, the nearby BT base? You claim that there's hearsay saying that some kind of portal has been
Yeah,
made.
yeah, that's right.
Can you
Yeah.
expand on that?
No, I can't really, because that's all I've heard. I think probably other people could expand on that, but it would be only hearsay from them.
Is
So
there
it's just,
somebody who can directly speak about it? Or
I don't know. I really don't know.
has Brenda got any direct? I'll talk to her about it.
Well, you can talk to her. Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's the person who's actually given the forest its prominence. You know, she's kept the thing alive, and she's made it very interesting for a lot of people.
But is it interesting though? Can it back up what she's saying?
I haven't tried to back up what she says.
But I mean, you've had your own experiences.
I've had my own experiences, and they're very small compared with other people's experiences. So it does give me some sort of inkling that possibly these things have been going on.
Right. So you've taken lots of pictures. You've
Yeah.
taken experimental pictures.
Yeah.
And what are your conclusions about the pictures that you've taken and the experiments that you've taken?
Well, the ones that I've experimented with and have found answers to are just non-stories now. It's
But what are you disproving, or what have you been able
Well,
to
well,
show?
orbs. I've managed to create a lot of pictures of orbs. You know, also you know, you just take them in drizzle. You take them in different circumstances, and you know you find out that there's nothing mysterious about them. But the ones where I've got multi-orbs, I believe that they're spores, pollen.
Pollen's very small.
Yeah, but if they're close to the camera
Yeah.
and they're thick on the ground, and I mean, who knows how they turn up, you know, how the camera sees them.
But you've said that some people can take pictures with one particular camera, with the same camera, and different people get different.
Yeah,
types
that's
of
right.
photographs.
Yes.
So, can you
I
explain
mean,
that?
that to me is one of the most fascinating things about Brenda Butler. Well, I'll give one example. Terry and I are sitting down in chairs, and she starts taking photographs of the both of us, and she said, "Oh, you're covered in smokies." So I thought, "Oh, good. I'll get up and use my camera," and I don't get any smokies on it. So I hand her my camera. She will take smokies with my camera of the scene that I can't take. There's nothing there for me. And there's another occasion at Eastgate when she was taking smokies. I couldn't take them. So we actually swapped cameras. She took smokies on mine, I took smokies on hers. But when I got my camera back, nothing. I mean, it's just weird. It's just weird. And that actually intrigues me more than anything, is what is going on. There's something paranormal, I think, must be going on with that down there, and it really does intrigue me.
What about the stones?
All right, yeah. I have been present when a stone, a port, landed.
How far away?
Oh, just in front of me. just came straight over the top of my head and onto the ground in front of me.
So there's no way that somebody standing nearby
I couldn't say because I'm not watching. You know, you're all walking in one direction, so if there was somebody in the trees, say, like a military or someone arsing around, I mean, I really don't know. I have no answer. They are warm, according to others who pick them up. They are still warm. And
were you able to pick this one up, the one that you're talking
no,
about?
we couldn't find it. Well, no, we actually couldn't find that one. No. But then the same night, some people did find the stones that fell, and they were still warm, and I got a photograph of somebody's hand with 2 stones on it, and they're usually round stones.
Yeah.
Fairly round and smooth. So, yeah.
And that's... So is there anything finally that you'd like to nail on the head?
Yeah, Terry and I have missing time there, and this is quite an interesting little story. Now, we met in the car park with a couple from Norfolk and another couple from Lowestoft. There was Don, Terry's friend, and Brenda, and myself, and Terry. And so we were all walking down track 12, and Terry and I were ahead, and we were just chatting. And I turned round and said, "Hey, Terry, they're no longer behind us." So we thought, okay, we'll sit down and wait for them. So
Who's
we had...
they?
Oh, that's all the others. The couple from Norfolk, the couple from Lowestoft, Brenda and Don. It was just Terry and I on our own. So we sat down and waited. And so eventually, I had taken this strange photograph where there was this sort of like a tornado kind of brown smoky thing coming out of the ground behind my chair, and there was also somebody standing there, which wasn't either me or Terry. And
Who was it?
I don't know.
Was it a physical person?
Well, no,
Shadow
I
of
don't
person?
know. It photographed, and you could just see a bit of the neck and cheek and the shoulder and the arm with a little red dot on it. So I think probably military, somebody, you know, following us around, just testing out covert operations or something. Anyhow, eventually Brenda and Don turned up. What had happened was that they had taken the 2 couples back to the car park so they could both go home, and because they were frightened. But Brenda said, "Where were you? We were shouting and shouting and shouting to let you know we were going, but we didn't hear them." And
How far away were they at the time?
I don't know, because I wasn't looking. I only looked
No,
and found that we
were
weren't
they
there.
500
Oh, just further
yards?
out the path. No, when you hear a deer in the forest, you know, that echoes through the forest. So you can hear noises. You can hear a disco going on in a village about 5 miles away. So, you know, it's sound travels. We didn't hear a thing. Absolutely nothing. The next day, Terry, who'd just got a new watch, which is the Longines, paid a fortune for it, and he'd got it all correct and everything, and he phoned me and said my watch was an hour out, and I can't remember whether it was missing an hour or gaining an hour or what, but it just kind of a strange incident.
So can you recall anything voluntarily without any kind of hypnosis as to anything that might have happened
No,
there? Do
no.
you know what that shape was? Does it come towards you or what?
What shape?
Did
No,
you-
I didn't even know it was there. I really didn't know it was there until I looked at the photograph.
What was the photograph taken with a film camera or a digital camera?
Digital, yeah. So it wasn't until I was sort of sat in the car, looked at that one and saw that sort of muddy smoke thing coming down into the photograph like a tornado. I realised I better keep this one, but I didn't notice anyone on that until I saw that little red spot when I got a print. And then I went back to Jessop's and said, "Please, Charles, go into the edge there and see what we can find." And he found part of a person standing there. So
In
that
the
person
dark?
in the dark, yeah, and it was a very dark night because I had to say to Terry, "Please say something," so I know where to point the camera.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened then.
Have you had any other experiences since then? which you'd consider unusual.
Yeah, at Shooter's Hill.
And that's in that's in East London?
Yeah,
South
yeah,
East London?
yeah.
What kind of experiences have you had
Well, Mark and I went there because he said it's spooky. It's my first visit.
there? Why Shooter's Hill?
Because he says that he lives by it. So he goes up there frequently and he sees things. He sees UFOs and things like that.
It's very high, so you can see over...
A long way. You can see straight over Eltham. Yes, it's good. And it's a hell of a walk going up that hill. But anyway, we sat on a bench by the cafe, and behind us is a car park. The other side of the cafe is this
What
car.
time of night is this? What time of the day is this?
We went up there probably about 10, 30. No, probably a bit later than that. Anyway, we got there and we sat on this bench, and it was the cars were coming in and going, and eventually there was no cars in the car park. Because, you know, like the lights swing round on you,
Yeah.
and then you can hear the wheels hit the gravel as they take off and go. And we were eating sandwiches, and it was drizzling.
Right.
But we were sitting on my Mac, so I didn't have anything to cover me. And my hair was getting really wet with this drizzle. And I did actually take some nice photographs of orbs from the drizzle. And
So you're saying the drizzle created...
yeah, they do. And anyhow, suddenly I said to Mark, hey, there's a car just leaving, and we never heard that arrive. And so we both looked, and this car was leaving. I said, you know, we've missed a bit here. And then I felt my hair, and it was dry. And it had been, you know what drizzle does to, it really soaks you. My hair was completely dry. So
Do you think you were left off by that vehicle?
I don't know. I've no idea. Absolutely no idea.
And
But
you're not
we
able to
figured
remember-
it was about, that we'd missed probably about 20 to 40 minutes. No more. We worked it out because we had looked at the watch for some reason. What time is it? Something like, you know, wasn't, we didn't know we were going to have this moment.
Yeah. And you've no recollection of anything happening other than that. You just remember that the car drove off.
I actually do have a vague memory of the Rendlesham one. I mean, it might be something I just imagined. I really wouldn't like to put my
You
money
said
on this
earlier that
one,
you-
but
Yeah, that you remember things very clearly when you were very young,
yes.
but you're not able to remember things now.
Well, not if for instance, if somebody had actually knocked you out, and you're not supposed to remember.
Is that your feeling?
Yeah. Yes.
Anything else
And
you
I
can
had
think
this
about?
feeling that I got a vague memory of Terry and I sitting side by side, and he's like this. It's my phone. It's all right.
Yeah, well, we'll...
It's okay. It's only a message.
Great. So,
Yeah. So I had this.
say again?
I had this feeling that Terry and I were sitting in like a concrete-y kind of corridor on a sort of like wooden bench, and it was not a very nice place, and it was very dimly lit, and I'm looking about, and Terry is like this, sitting beside me, and that's it. That's the only little image I have, and I might be completely bonkers.
And that's at Rendlesham.
Yeah. That was a memory I had. So when you get little memories, little things like that, you don't know whether it's true or whether you've just imagined it or what. So I didn't...
Any emotion attached to the experience?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
Can you remember being brought into the room?
No. Or leaving. Just a fraction of a...
Well, you remember seeing your colleague with his head bowed. Does that mean that you were able to see anything else other than that?
I didn't see it. No, the place was deserted. It was like a
What
long
kind of
corridor.
Yeah.
A sort of concrete, and there was a kind of
Was the concrete painted?
Yeah, it was painted.
Cream or?
No,
or
it was like a warm sort of cream, and there was some green. I don't know in what proportion, but I do remember those two colours, and the sort of the yellow. When I say yellow, it was a cream, a yellowy creamy colour.
What kind of lighting?
Very dull, very low lighting. You know,
Were they
I don't know
were
where
they
it
light
came.
bulbs,
No,
or
I
were
couldn't
they-
see any light bulbs. It was just lit, and it was how can I say? No, there wasn't any source of light actually that I could see. Well, I
So
wasn't
the whole
looking.
place
I was
was
just
evenly lit.
yeah.
It wasn't patchy, bright.
Actually, yeah, it was patchy because I felt that it was. If we were sitting here and I could see up there, behind me it felt dark.
Were there any numbers written
No,
anywhere, any
nothing,
letters?
nothing. This was just like it was naff. It was really naff place to be.
Did it have a smell?
No, I can't remember a smell.
What was the bench you were sitting on? What were you physically sitting on?
It wasn't very wide.
Was it made of wood or plastic?
I think it's probably wood. Yeah, rough. It was a rough place actually. It was like they'd painted over really rough concrete. You know, I had this feeling it was underground.
How long was the corridor?
I don't know. It's
Very
just
short, like a short road.
I couldn't tell you. It was just like I think actually it was longer than this room.
So you're talking 20 feet or something?
Yeah, this is 15. So probably a bit longer. But there, I only glanced. You see, in one glance, that's...
So that's the only thing you can recall.
Yeah.
But you must be able to recall before that. If you did you wake up? Was this the end of the experience or the start of it?
I don't know. I have a feeling it was the start of it.
And this was 3 years ago. We're now talking
Yeah, something like that. I've got it
2007.
written down. I've got
Yeah.
the dates and everything, and everything written down. Yeah. In fact, all my experiences are written down.
So this is having an effect on you to remember? Is it painful?
No, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm not disturbed
So
about it at all.
Were you sitting beside a door?
No, I think that there must have been an entry in the darkness behind me, at the side of me.
Did you think that you were in?
I think we came in from that dark bit into this light bit, or lighter.
Do you think you were in a holding cell of some description? Do you think it was a cell?
Yeah, I don't know about a cell. I think it was a corridor. And I think we were just simply waiting. What for, I don't know. But we were just waiting.
This is the night that you saw the shadowy sort of person.
No, that was another
later.
night. That was
a different
later. That was later.
night. It was a lot later? Or
Oh,
soon
probably a
after?
couple of years later,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably, when did this experience happen? This would have been when you first started going to Rendlesham.
No, it probably, I mean, I've got it written down. I would have the dates and everything and the times and things were all written down. So it was about, I think, 3 years ago.
So that's mid-2000, 2005, 2004?
Probably, maybe 2003, 4.
So when did you first start going to the forest?
I really don't know, but I've got that written down somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Oh, was this after some time you'd been visiting the forest, or was it?
yes, it's a while. I mean, I didn't go down there that often because really I was just a guest, and it was down to Terry whether he fancied taking me down there or not. You know, so I couldn't ask to go down. I had to be waiting to be invited.
Is this within your capacity within BU4 or?
No, I was just
Any
an
support?
ordinary person, you know, curious, just curious.
And
Yeah.
you got something curious to think about.
Yeah.
So is there anything finally you want to get across about the whole thing, about the Bentwaters case? Have you heard? What's your opinion?
Well, of course, yeah. Well, I mean, clearly something happened there, didn't it? And I've heard a lot of stories, and I've read up on it. So, but I think it's a very interesting coastline. I think what intrigues me too is that in 1940 is the Shingle Street invasion of sort of, I think, 100,000 Germans came across. Did you know this?
No.
Right, so this is worth looking at.
So the Germans actually invaded
Yeah,
Britain?
yeah, and Churchill heard that they were going to do it, and that they were they're building up steamships and things over in Belgium, and I think really that we didn't have much more than the Home Guard, and all our boys were abroad, you know, fighting.
Yeah.
And so they hit on a plan to put pipes full of inflammable liquid through Shingle Street, and I believe somewhere else as well.
Where is this place? Is it on the coast?
Just below Orford Ness, Rendlesham. And this is an interesting aspect of it, actually. And so what happened? Yeah, the army decided to evacuate the villages around there, and they had to all leave. And so one or two curious blokes stayed behind to watch. And what they saw was the Germans coming over and being burnt to bits. And apparently there's somebody's uncle or father or something was a Lancaster bomber fighter, plane pilot, and there were barrels of inflammable liquid floating on the water as well, and they machine gunned those so that everything went up in flames. And there's a man, he's got a website, and he was in Aldborough, and his son has taken it over now, and so he talks about seeing the fire, you know, and so that's what happened. They also cleared some of the hospitals out waiting for victims, and apparently there's a pit there where they buried the bodies, and some were sent back to Germany, so they say. And also they said that they were buried in Rendlesham Forest, and that there's a lot of silver birch trees to mark the area. Now, whether that's actually true or not, I really don't know, because it seems to me that you're going to have to truck a lot of nasty bodies, burnt bodies, through these villages to Rendlesham, and that would be a disgusting thing to have to do. You know, the best thing to do is dig a pit locally and put them all in there, which is, I think, what they probably did, you see. But it is said that a lot of these orbs and things are the spirits of German soldiers, which I don't buy.
Why do you not buy that?
Because I don't actually... My gut feeling is that they're not buried in the forest. And this is just one of those stories, but they are buried somewhere. And there is a photograph on that website that says this is where they're buried. And it's near the shore. It's a field near the shore, meadow.
Do you think that's changed by now with the way tides work and things like that?
No. I think the field will still be there because there's Shingle Street is known because it's got shingle, and it's a big shingle bank. And I used to go there in the 50s to tea, and beautiful teas they were, all homemade, scones and bread and jam and stuff. A woman who used to live in one of the Coast Guard houses there. And it's very, very desolate, actually. There's just a few small properties, Coast Guard houses, and a Martello Tower, which the history of the locality is very vulnerable, you know. It's always been a very vulnerable coastline because it's not really guarded. And of course the Germans were very interested in Bordsey, which had the radar installation. And
How close is that?
That's a bit further down, below Shingle Street. It's on the how can I say it? It's on the banks of that river that cuts through there. I can't remember whether that's the, I don't know whether it's the Orwell or the Store. I really don't know. I can't remember at the moment offhand. So it's an interesting episode.
Do you have any information about when the vent waters and Woodbridge bases first came online?
Online meaning?
When they were commissioned?
No, I don't. I mean, I was just no, I don't, because I mean they just came over during the war, didn't they? And they either built the bases or took them over from current ones. I really don't know. I know that there was Bedwaters and Lakenheath, and I used to go out with a pilot from Wattisham. So, well, several pilots actually. We used to go out in a boozy group.
And were these U.S. Air Force personnel?
No, these ones, they were English. Yeah. It's all there.
First German invasion.
Yeah.
Basically, we terrified the living daylights out of the Germans. Yeah.
Well, we were terrified because they could have taken over.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 100,000 soldiers. So there's some talk about them wearing British uniforms from captured prisoners.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a mess up there, but I don't know how true that is. You know, like these are hearsay things.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a drawing I did, sort of illustrating what people have seen in the forest. We've got this little creature here, this little ET, is how Terry described what he saw. They also seen little brown monks. Brenda has seen a Bigfoot, which was smelly, and here are the apports, the stone apports which arrive, and here is a whoosh, a light that shoots through the trees, and here are some orbs. So that's what they say they've seen. The monks, you can see, they've got no legs, and they just glide, so they say. This is a little drawing I did to illustrate Terry's description of the ETs that he's seen in the forest. This isn't anything that I have seen, but I just drew it down one of the tracks, and that is something I did see. We were walking down this one of the tracks, and Brenda and Peter Parrish were in front of me, and Terry was walking behind me, and I looked up and I saw this hovering over the tree line. Well, it came out of the tree line, and then it might have actually been bigger than what I've depicted here. However, it seemed to be about the size of a helicopter cabin. It pulsated a bit, you know, and went out. And there am I rubbing my eyes, wondering whether I actually did see this thing, when Terry's voice came into the back of my neck and said, "Did you see that?" So he saw it, I saw it. Brenda and Peter didn't see it. And that's that, really.
Was this being there at the same time?
Oh, no. This is just an illustration. And I just thought I'd put this in as I had seen it. So it's an addition. I was just to describe, you know, to put a picture on Terry's sightings of ETs.
Are the ETs that are being claimed to be seen there, do they look like that?
Well, Terry's do.
And they're dressed like that?
Terry's do, yeah. Terry's dressed like that.
You're very particular about the hands. So the hands.
Oh no, he was very particular. I actually had to change it. He said the neckline wasn't like that, or, you know, I think actually the neckline was more like this one here. This one here. Terry's, I had to change that neckline when I didn't do on the other one.
And the hands are the same?
I don't know whether I made the hands up.
Right.
I think I made the hands
Those
up.
are not particular, okay.
Yeah. But it was the clothing and the stance. That is how he saw it, and he describes it. He will imitate it, and he'll stand there and imitate exactly what he's seen. This drawing here of 5 little ETs is something I actually saw in my head. It was a sort of clairvoyant moment when I had a bit of a kip on the sofa and I woke up. And in that moment before being fully awake and not being asleep is when I saw these. And they were just sort of bunched up and they were a bit pale. They weren't white, they were greyish, I suppose. And then
cement grey or what?
I really can't recollect that because it's very brief. It's just fortunate that I have a photographic memory that I can draw these things.
You saw a group like this?
Yes, I'm just standing in that order, in that little group, just like that.
Can you
then
describe the faces and the eyes better?
Yeah, I got this, and then I suddenly got a close-up of one of them with an open mouth, which is this. And it's just a black hole for a mouth, really. I didn't see anything in there. And there's tiny ears. Yeah, it was a bit of a lumpy head. And then I saw this man. Oh, who was the boss? He was it was a very fleeting glimpse I had of this, and he was, he's the man, he's the person who gives all the orders to all those little creatures.
Did you hear him speak?
No, I didn't. I just got this look of him in exactly like that, and he had a sort of brown, leathery skin. And that's it really, he was just like...
Was he an old person, or what colour were his eyes?
Don't know. Don't know, just brown, everything brown. Yeah, so he interests me. I would love to know actually if anybody else has seen anything like these, because if they have, then there's something. It would be good for me. Otherwise, I'm got a question mark over this. So I just don't take it too seriously. But I do know people have clairvoyant moments and they do see these things. Right. That is my interpretation of the Kelly Hopkinsville, Kentucky goblins, which had arrived in well, there was a family of hillbillies. They lived in a sort of an isolated farmhouse, and they had their family over, and they were just, there was, I've forgotten how many people now, I've written this up actually, and there were probably about 9 to 16 people, I don't know, children, family thing. And one of them went outside to get some water and saw that the UFO had landed. And so he came back indoors and they came out to have a look. And there were these little creatures, and they actually menaced them for most of the night. And they were looking through the windows and they were shooting at them. And they were just running on all fours back to wherever, and they were all over the roof and looking through the windows. Must have been a bit nasty. And anyway, they managed to get into the cars and belted down to the police station. And the police actually say, yeah, they were really alarmed, and they couldn't sort of act that out because they were genuinely upset and frightened. So the police came back with them, saw nothing. And they stayed for about half an hour, I believe, or so. And the police left, and as soon as they left, they came back again and started harassing them. In fact, actually, they didn't get very much of a welcome. They're probably more curious. You know, I thought, quite honestly, my drawing was a cute little thing. However, they didn't think so. And Anyway, they
Showed
eventually
You
left.
showed these to the witnesses,
Did they show what?
these pictures?
No, that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, but you showed these to the witnesses, no?
Which witnesses?
Of this thing?
No, I don't know. This is America.
All right.
Kentucky.
Kentucky, when?
Oh, can't now. I've got the dates down. I've written it all down. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
This whole story I've written down. Actually, I'll give you it. Yeah, I think it's in a magazine. Yes, so really the hillbillies, they were actually risking an awful lot coming out with this experience because they would have been isolated. They were very, I think they were quite religious people. And this, so they actually left their community because the community is very, very close. And this isolated them, and so if they'd made it up, they wouldn't have made it up knowing that they would be ostracised by the community. So there you go. It's an interesting little story, that. God alone knows, I mean, as far as I'm aware, that no one else has ever experienced these little goblins, apart from myth and legend. So I don't think there's been any other case. So it's just a strange story. It just sits there on its own. Of course, a lot of people don't believe it. I don't know what to believe. It's just a good story.
And you got the Loch Ness Monster there?
No, yeah, but don't worry about that. This is the Cabra.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. There's fish falls. This is just, these were the man in black. And the helicopters. That's it. I don't want to talk about those because they're just illustrations. That's interesting. What I'm looking for is the pine tree. I just love that one. Here we are. There's this photograph here. I think I should take them out.
Yeah.
And I don't need to give you that, do I? Because you can enlarge this.
Okay, talk.
Okay.
On the front side of the mouth.
Right, what's that?
Yeah. Well,
There?
yeah, there.
That thing?
That'll
That
do.
furry thing?
Yeah.
Not that furry thing. Yeah, this photograph here I took along with another one in what is referred to by Brenda as Blair Witch, and this is quite a thick plantation of pine trees of all ages. Yeah. And I was in total darkness. I took 2 random shots, you know, just in the darkness. There's no torchlight, nothing at all. And this turned up here, and you can see that the trees.
Where's your pointer?
No, I'll put it back in the thing. Break.
Start again.
Right from the beginning, from the top.
Take one.
Okay.
2.
This photograph here was one of 2 photographs that I took in what is known by Brenda Butler, as Blair Witch. It's a plantation of pines of all ages, and we were in total darkness, and I just took these shots at random. This is the first one, and as you can see, the trees are in front of it. This is in middle distance. I have no idea what this is at all. I can't explain it. It just turned up. But the next one I took, you know, I just took this one and then turned and took the second one, which is coming up now. Yeah?
Go.
Right, this is the second photograph I took in the Blair Witch, in total darkness. And to my surprise, I got this pine tree, this sapling, which, as you can see, is in full focus. And this thing is moving up behind it. And I don't know what that thing is at all. I enlarged it to have a better look, and you can see it's quite attractive, but I still don't know what it is. It doesn't have a top or a bottom, it just fades out. You can see, whoops, you can see a sort of light there, but it just fizzles out, and it does the same at the top, fizzles out.
What time of night is this?
Hmm?
What time of night?
Oh, it'd probably be about midnight or...
During winter, is that winter?
I don't know, wait a minute, would it
Frost
be?
on the tree or what?
It would be the 5th of February, 05. That's it, that's when I took that photograph, and I don't put the time there. But it would have been late because that's how they ended up in there. Okay. Going down there.
Yeah. Okay, explain it.
Hmm?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, wait a minute. I was having a look. So, that one is the one with the man in it, isn't it? Can you see the man? No. Oh, wait a minute. Have I got the right one there? Oh, yes, I have. I have. Because there's the red dot. Yeah. Okay.
Right, okay, you now explain it.
Okay, well, this is an evening, 27th of December, 2004. We met up with Brenda Butler, this is Terry and I, and Don, his neighbour. We met up in Rendlesham car park with Brenda Butler, a couple from Norwich, and another couple from Lowestoft. We were all walking down track 12. Terry and I sort of steamed ahead because the others were dawdling and talking. And we were talking. And I looked round and suddenly noticed that none of them were following us. And I said, hey Terry, there's no one behind us, where they've gone. And I didn't think that we had walked that fast. So we decided to get chairs out and sit down and wait. And we seemed to wait for a long time. Anyway, it was pitch dark. It was really pitch dark. And I decided, we were sitting there talking, and I decided I would get up and take a photograph. And it was so dark that I had to tell him, hey, talk, so I know where to point the camera. So that's what happened. I took this photograph, and then later, Brenda and Don came down with their light, shining a light through track 12, and apparently they had been shouting and shouting and shouting for us, and we hadn't heard them at all. I don't know how long they said that they'd been gone. Anyhow, we didn't think much more of that. I took the photograph, and then Terry and I and Don were in the car, and I'm just going through the photographs, and I noticed that this muddy cloud coming down, and in actual fact it's like a tornado, and it goes down behind this chair. I don't know whether you can see it there. You can see this much better in sunlight actually. So it comes down behind the chair, and there's this funny little shape here, looks like a little ET. It probably isn't, it's just bracken looking like that, but it was kind of strange. It goes underlines my idea that, you know, when you get a strange sort of shape, it's always ET-like in that forest. It's very odd. Anyway, I took these photographs to Jessop's, get them printed off. And when I got this one back, I noticed just here, there's a little red dot. So I went back to Jessop's and said to Charles, please go into the margin and see what you can find is going on here. So he did, and I went a couple of days later, and as I walked into the shop, he looked up and he said, oh Audrey, there's a man standing there. So here's the red dot, and here is a bit of neck and cheek. And you can sort of see a shoulder and an arm. So that is a person standing there. I don't know, I think, personally, I think it's military. And somebody sort of doing a covert operation. because we certainly didn't hear him, and we couldn't see him because it was too dark. Anyway, the next day, Terry had actually, I don't know whether you can see it on here, no you can't, he'd bought a new watch which cost him a fortune. It was a Longines, and he was very fussy about polishing it and making sure that the time was correct and so on. And he phoned me up the next day and said, hey, you know, it's there's a missing hour here, you know, it's I can't remember whether it was added on or taken off, I think it was lost. And so then we wondered whether we'd had missing time, because it was rather strange. That's it, really.
Well, this is one we really need to try and get the original negative from, because then we can try and find edges of anything there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that. I will try and look for that. I mean, I've probably marked this one, but I don't know where I've put all the CDs. I think they're on CDs, not on DVD.
Right.
Right, what I've got here is my granddaughter out on my roof garden hitting an Andrex toilet roll. And the reason she's doing that is because I asked her to, because I'd seen in sunlight the amount of dust and fragments that come off this toilet roll when you use it. So I decided to send her out there with the toilet roll and give it a beating, and then take the photographs, and hey presto, you've got the orbs from the dust coming off the roll. That's it.
So do you think all orbs are dust particles?
I think they're all kinds of things. I think they're raindrops, they're mist, they're drizzle, they're pollen, spores, forest dust, all kinds of things.
But not souls of aliens or something like
I don't think so. I mean, there are some strange orbs around doing strange things, but that I haven't got an answer for them. But they're not this. The other orbs that we haven't got answers for are just question marks over them. I don't want to hazard a guess, but the
Incredible. Very good.
a funny little face. Look at her nose, looks like a little Miss Piglet. What a little sweetie pie she is. Left with a real mystery that you can't explain, and that's what I'm looking for. That's what interests me. Getting all this stuff out of the way first. Oh, a manky little roof garden. There's a lot of orbs there, isn't there?
But that's just when she's hit it.
Yeah, just after she's hit it. Well, she started hitting it in this one. You're not recording this, are you?
I am now.
Right, okay, I'll shut up. That really is weird. Okay.
What's this?
Well, this is one of my early smokies that I captured, and
How is this formed?
well, I don't know how it's formed because I don't know where they come from, because you can't see any of this with the naked eye, and you can't find it in torchlight or anything. It's just completely blank, but it shows up on the camera. And this one, in actual fact, looks like a praying mantis, and you can see here a head, two eyes, a sort of muzzle mouth, arm, body. That's about it. I don't know if I'd have carried on taking photographs of that, with whether that would have sort of what do I want to say here? Forgotten. Whether that would have actually become more detailed.
So this isn't somebody's breath or humidity?
No, it can't be anybody's breath, because, you know, like you hold the camera away from your
Somebody's
face.
smoking with a
Nobody's
cigarette.
smoking, no, none of the smoke at all. So I mean, this is probably just a coincidence that it looks like that. But there again, I mean, there's this peculiar thing about things taking on the shapes of ETs and such in the forest. I was going to say something and I've just spotted another picture. You can see two black marks here, just like an alien here.
Yeah.
And you can see them all over the place, but doesn't mean to say that's what they are.
Why an alien? Why not some kind of
Yeah,
earth
precisely.
spirit or
Yeah, well, it could be a spirit. I don't know what it is. I don't. I think it's just the same as when I was a child. I used to find pictures in the has a sort of wallpaper by my bed. You know, I could find hundreds of pictures there, going off to sleep, and so. But it is strange that this is the theme that keeps coming up.
Yep.
This is a photograph of Terry shrouded in a big smoky. Photograph was taken by Brenda with my camera because I was stood there taking photographs of Terry and I didn't get any smoky in my pictures at all. But I give my camera to Brenda and she'll take a smoky. So you could hardly see Terry in there. That's his collar, here's his hat, here's his head, and here's the back of his chair. So, you know, that's, I can't explain these at all. They're puzzling. Another one. Smoke. It's come out so differently. Have you started yet? Okay, this is a barbecue at my sister's up in Wolverhampton. And it was taken, it was raining, so they had the barbecue in her garage, or her, what do you call it, garage port thing?
Garage,
yeah. Yeah. And
so you have orbs and everything there?
Well, no. Oh yeah, it's a few orbs. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah.
Smoke,
but they haven't got a smoky. I mean, there is visibly a lot of smoke, and that's how it's come out.
And the orbs are raindrops?
Well, no, I don't know. No, there would be... no, actually, I've got another interesting one where my son-in-law is blowing out the candles of his birthday cake. And I caught it just as he'd blown them out. And there are orbs everywhere from blowing the candles out, you see. So it didn't necessarily mean that orbs are raindrops or anything here. It's just orbs.
Okay, explain this.
Right, now this is another orb picture. This is my son-in-law blowing the candles out on his cake. As you can see, he's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 years old. And he's just blowing the candles out, and I took the photograph, and you can see that the smoke from the candles has formed these orbs. Nothing mysterious about that at all.
How does smoke and candles form an orb though?
I don't know. That's for somebody else to find out. I just pointed out.
Right.
Right, well, this is, I'm not quite sure when this happened. It was, June, last summer, 06. And we were walking through, it's quite a crowd of us. We were walking through, I think, track 12. And these apports, stones came down.
What's an apport?
And a port is something that arrives from nowhere. And I mean, I had a lot of apports in this flat, actually. I've got a box full of little apports. Anyway, so somebody picked up the stone apports and I photographed them. There they are.
Now, this isn't actually energy which is rising off the stones. This is due to
just the camera.
And it's just camera shake.
Yeah, it's when you're on night, the night exposure, then you get this reflection of light shooting up. So
is that from a torch, which is
yeah, the torch is on it. Yeah, so it sort of makes that kind of a reflection as you've seen in streetlights and things like that. So that's nothing
So
special
what
about
happened
them.
with these stones? Were they hot or cold? Or
They're warm. They're warm.
Have you personally felt them when they first arrived?
Actually, I haven't.
What's the description? What they do?
Well, they say they're sort of like. Well, Terry says that he's handled one that was really quite hot and it smelt of perfume or something.
Brenda Butler's perfume? From being in her pocket? No?
No,
Or
could
somebody's
be. It
pocket?
could be a covert,
Yeah.
covert operation there. All right, this. I was sitting at the kitchen table, more or less where this leaf is sitting now, and I'm reading, and I'm feeding my face with cheddars, which is over on the right hand side, and I'm not looking at cheddars. I'm just feeding my face, and then as you pick up a cheddar, you turn your hand and you put it up to your mouth. And it is as I picked up a cheddar and turned my hand, that I felt something touch the palm of my hand. And when I looked, there was this blade of grass, and it was freshly picked, it was brand new. And I had no idea how that got there, because there was nothing to indicate how it did. Now this port arrived on the 28th of the 4th month, 02. That's winter time. And I went through the house looking for any kind of a plant that had that leaf, and it's actually a grass, fresh grass, of which I don't have in the house or on the roof, and I don't know where it came from at all. But I do know at the time a friend of mine had dumped a lot of her possessions as she was moving, and she dumped them in my studio. And then, having dumped them, she sort of breezily said, "Well, by the way, my mother's ashes are under your desk." So I sort of got the heebie-jeebies about that, and so I phoned her up and I said, "You could come and remove your mother from under my desk." Whether that had anything to do with that, I really don't know. Okay, this is a ball bearing. It's one of the many apports that I've had throughout the years in my flat, some of which I've kept and some I regret that I didn't bother to keep. It's a very strange thing, and I just found this in the middle of my carpet, and there's just no explanation for how it got there. I certainly didn't own it.
Is this the same place where other things have occurred?
Yeah, I have. I had a razor blade. No, that's another story. But yeah, this is just strange. I don't know where it came from. I've had other apports that have dropped out of the air. In fact, actually, while some people have been sitting here, and it's just dropped. It scared them. Didn't scare me. These two I found on the kitchen floor, probably a few weeks apart from one another. This strange little bit of plastic, sparkly plastic, fell out of the air onto the table in front of me, and I think there was somebody else here, which surprised us. Now, these two little batteries turned up when on the kitchen table at separate occasions, and there was nothing on the table. I mean, I wasn't doing anything with batteries. I mean, they just came out of the blue. At the same time, this is a similar thing. I think it's part of a camera, and I found it on the table when there was no cameras around. I looked in every single camera that I had. I've now parted with a few of them in a jumble sale, but it didn't fit anything. It fitted nothing, and there would have been no reason for it to be on the table if it had, because I wasn't doing anything with cameras. So where it came from, I really don't know. But there we go, that's it. It's the 28th of April, Sunday, 5 p.m, 2002. It's in my writing of a port of a leaf. Sitting at the kitchen table, reading and eating cheddars from a packet on my right-hand side, not looking at the packet as I take one cheddar after another. My hand takes a cheddar and then turns palm upwards, and as I move my hand towards my mouth, I suddenly had my... I have
Doesn't
written
matter,
this
just keep
so
reading.
badly. Suddenly, as my hand turned palm upwards, I felt a slight, light pressure in my palm and felt something else there as I moved my hand towards me. I stopped, I looked, and to my utter surprise, there was a freshly picked leaf. I pressed this leaf finally. No leaf at all similar in my flat or my roof. Leaf resembled as one as from, say, the common wild oat, i.e. grass. I would add here that my friend, leaving her stuff in my studio as she was between homes, also left her mother's ashes there. I wasn't happy about this and asked her to remove them after this experience, just in case.
Any last comments?
Any last comments? Yeah,
Anything you've written down that's of particular importance?
I don't know, I presume so. There's this bruise here, and Terry was with me, and it was here, and it was a big lump. I had no idea how I got it. I woke up with it, and I had a hard thing right in, like a little round pellet. I can still feel it. It's a little round pellet
Do
in
you think
there.
there's something still there?
Yeah, I can feel it now. I'm feeling it now. So I don't know what it is. It was, yeah, I think, yeah. It was 21st of April. I haven't got the date.
So this is your personal diary of these
these things, yeah. So there'd be, I don't know, it'd be 2002 that
You've been
happened.
constantly visited.
Yeah.
Can you make any recollection as to who's doing it? Or
No,
any,
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And just for the record, you actually are involved with the 9/11 truth
Yeah.
movement as well.
There was more things on my knees.
Yeah.
This is my knee, inside the knee. It's a
Yeah.
big bruise, you know, like the size of my palm.
Yeah.
I've had that twice. And then on the outside, I didn't photograph the other one, but I had like 3 10-pence pieces, like bruises, on the outside of my knee. And then this big bruise on the inside. And here's one of the bruises on another occasion, which is, as you can see, is quite big.
Yeah. Is it because, do you think it's anything to do with your abduction group that you're running, that you're a party of?
No, this all started out, it's been going for years. So I've only been in
The British Abduction Support Group.
yeah,
What's its
this
formal name?
rapport.
The form rapport?
Mm-hmm.
What does that stand for?
Well, you know, talk. No, a rapport between people.
Yeah. And that formerly was with the British UFO Research Association, and now it's more independent. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were involved with Bufora, and
How many are we talking about here?
well, I don't know to begin with. I know there was some sort of big falling out, but I won't go into that because I'm not.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
But how many would be in the group? How many British
There was
abductees
about.
are we talking about?
Well, there was probably about 20 or 30 originally. Now the numbers are creeping up, and Nick Pope actually is referring people to us,
Right.
which is very good of him.
Yeah. So we're talking about a restricted area within the southeast of England, or are these
No,
abductees
no,
from
no.
all over?
We've got them all over the place. Yeah.
And they come and talk in London. And
I had a meeting here, just a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago or so. And it was very, very good. It was very, very interesting.
what typical, in just a minute, what typical experiences do the ufology, do these people encounter? Very simple.
They most of them have memories and they can remember who's abducting them. Yeah,
Who is abducting them?
yeah. Well, greys.
What kind
Now,
of greys?
I'm not quite sure. We've got to. This is what we're hoping to do: is to get people to talk more.
Do they have round eyes, or
I don't know.
any
We are
military
going to go
involved?
into that. We're going to go into that because Mark and I haven't been very long taking over.
Because it's very important that in the basis series, literally in the last few seconds, there's talk, or there's the point that people are making that there are military abductions using man-made crossbred aliens called generated life forms.
Yeah.
These have round eyes.
Right, okay, I didn't know that.
Right. Okay, well, we're just about out of tape and time. Many thanks, Audrey, for sharing your experiences, and we'll be including this with Basis 3.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I definitely think that there is definitely a relationship between this and you know, the ET stuff, because now I've known Brenda Butler for a long time, and she's always said she's channeled information like the ETs are saying, we will never allow a nuclear situation here to develop. Now, people have checked out sort of intelligence situations with the Americans that worked on the base and the weapon systems at the time. Now, apparently they've had 500 thermonuclear weapons in storage in that forest at the time. There were 1,000 strike aircraft, and apparently when the so-called 1980, which I don't have any experience of, the so-called 1980 incidents occurred.
So I mean, this is something that Larry Warren has talked about.
No, this is something they've checked out from other sources.
So Larry Warren claims that the nuclear weapons on the Bentwaters base being neutralised by the UFO.
This is something that has been said as a point from by Brenda and others, but they've also checked out, the way I understand it, and I can't give names because I don't have any, that the nuclear weapons have not been removed, are still in the forest. You are almost standing over the nuclear weapons. The arsenal is bunkered underneath, and if you stand and listen long enough in the forest, you can hear inspection doorways opening underneath. I've been there by myself, and you can hear huge juddering sounds, and apparently these doors are like 9 feet thick of reinforced titanium concrete, all this type of stuff. You can hear these opening, you can hear movement underneath, and you can hear these doors opening. They're like hydraulically open doors, like somebody maintains what's down there. There's no other explanation for it. We've all heard this, you know, by ourselves or with groups. We've heard these things. So I think, and I mean, I'm not saying I'm right. I couldn't say that, but I've done meditations down there, and I just sort of like put the thought out, like, what are we talking about here? Are there interesting things here? And like, you are standing on them, you know. The feedback is like, you are standing on the interesting things in the forest. The nukes are still under there.
You think there's other alien facilities under the forest?
Couldn't answer that. I doubt that. Brenda doesn't think that, so I have no way of knowing. I've not been there long enough to find this out. I never knew the base in the sort of 80s. I don't know. But Brenda's been on the base, and she's interviewed all the soldiers. I mean, I know this because she's told me this. But what I'm saying is, we can't prove this. But from the feedback from the American military that there are the nuclear weapons, let's put it like this, they're still there.
How many are you talking about? 500?
They reckon at that time there were possibly upwards of 500 thermonuclear weapons, whether they're cruise, whether they're, you know, bombs, or whether they're, I don't know what, ballistic missiles, I don't know, but there are 500 thermonuclear weapons. Now, can I say that when I was engaged to my late fiancée, her father worked at a Canadian facility where they tested the lift-off rocket for the cruise missile. So when they were, this is like mid-70s, so when they were testing this thing out, the prototypes, they were testing the booster rocket that lifted it off the ship, the pad, whatever, the launching pad, and it would drop the lifting rocket. Apparently, you know, what was said there, a lot of stuff you listen to, you don't have to believe all of it. There was nothing less than like 100,000 kilotons in each of one of these things. So if you add this lot up together, you're talking huge multi-megatonnage stuff. If that place lit up and it went off, it would take, you know, 20 square miles off the map, would just go into a fireball. It would just disappear off the face of the map, probably out across the sea as well, because the ocean's only 7 miles from there, the coastline. You'd have an enormous nuclear explosion. And I've seen alien-type looking objects going up and down the forest, doing like grid searches, zigzag left to right. And I've timed this on a stopwatch for about 55 minutes.
Why do you call them alien search devices?
Don't know, just acted in the most bizarre manner. I mean, it didn't seem to be reasonable that they would do this at, something military would want to do this at like 2 in the morning, 2 in the morning. You know, Brenda had gone off with Peter Parrish, left me there, said, we don't think you see anything there, Terry, but if you want to stop this, below freezing. I log all this, as I say, I keep the dates. And there were strange sort of clicking noises. Now, I didn't know what to think with this. I thought, this is odd, how very odd. Just behind the barrier in the forest, the entrance to 10 in the forest, I thought this was very odd. And it was below freezing because you could hardly walk on the ground, it was very icy. So I walked into the forest. Now, as I was going to go into the forest, from where Foley House is, which is the first cottage behind us, this strange rotating noise started up. Like, not so much like a helicopter, but like a huge rotating mass or something going round. It just appeared there, and there was like a whoop, 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 like a blade. So I ducked, looked up, saw nothing, and as it passed over me, it stopped. So that spooked me for a second because it was almost on top of me. A sizable mass of rotation. I thought, I don't know what that is, don't think about it. Went in, heard the clicking noises, so I got down on my hands and knees and I thought, I'll get to the bottom of this. These are crickets, aren't they? I thought, below freezing, can't be crickets. We'll have a look anyway. So I got down on my hands and knees with a torch and I'm wading through the long ferns and whatever, long grass, and the clicking noises got louder. Both sides, in front of me and both sides of the track, came towards me and I spooked. I got up and then falling over, trying to get out of the entrance to the forest. Stood behind the barrier and this all stopped, like you're being watched but you can't see something. And about, I don't know, 150 yards in to my left where the first block of trees is, this object just came up behind the trees and it appeared to be rotating because I got the binoculars out of the car and I experimented with the stars. So I looked at the stars, I thought, not a star, I'm looking at something real, doesn't seem to be a helicopter. I would say no more than about 10 feet across this thing, or smaller. It looked like it was giving off lights, like it was rotating or changing in some way. I thought, this is interesting, so I watched it. So it just stood there for a while, then it went down the street, over the trees, and it started, so I thought, start the stopwatch, get the stopwatch going, and it's doing this like zigzag, dropping down into the trees, like it's measuring or looking for something. Like some sort of scanning thing, and this was going on and on. Then it dropped into the trees and it did all these strange manoeuvres. I thought, it's not a helicopter. So I thought, this is starting to bore me, I've had enough of this. So I thought, I'm going to go in a minute, I've had enough of this, this must be a chopper or whatever. And suddenly, now we've measured the position of track 10 from the very beginning of the Woodbridge Road, and it's 9/10 of a mile on the speed of the car. But the first block of trees doesn't start for, say, a quarter of a mile. So you're talking about at least half a mile or more. Now this thing just covered the half a mile in about 1 second. It went, it just stopped in front of me, and I thought, this is interesting. So it's over the first block of trees and it just stopped, like, take a look at this, and I spooked. And I thought, Jesus. So I just watched it, rotation, motion again like this, and I thought, you have to do better than that. You know, you're military. I don't believe that you are, but you're going to have to do better than this. So I just watched it. So I've gone like this. I can see you, and it's a feeling of being watched. And suddenly, at about 60 degrees upwards, so if we're saying from this point to there might be 2-3 miles. This started quite slowly. It went, and this thing spun as it went up. I saw the moonlight glitter off it. I thought, this is amazing, and it just went across the skyline. And I don't think that's military. You're probably talking several thousand miles an hour in 1 second. I've never seen anything like that before, and that just made my heart stop. I thought, this is amazing.
So do you think it was scanning for?
I have absolutely no idea at all. I mean, I don't think the nuclear weapons are right under the street there. I mean, if there are nuclear weapons, they're probably further down in the forest. Brenda thinks if this is a tool, it's in another place, but not in at the beginning of the sort of entrance to the forest. That wouldn't be under there. But what's being suggested is these weapons are in silos, half a mile under the surface, in contained bunkers. You know, this is what we think.
If you can hear the doorways opening and the
You can
rumbling,
hear.
surely they would be a lot closer to
I
the
don't
surface.
know. I thought about that, but I thought maybe the ground is transmitting this. Like this is something quite sizable, and you can hear this like jerking noise, like something, like a huge slab of concrete moved across another one, like something slowly opening, and you think it's sort of thing like you see in a shipyard, as like of a gate or a, what do they call it, a dam or something. Something is opening very slowly, like something is hydraulically being moved or electrically being moved. That's not been open for a while, and you think, this is bizarre. But everybody's heard this, and this is like deep under the, and you can feel it through the ground, through your plimsolls. You can feel the sound coming up, and it just suddenly stops.
So you had a strong suspicion that when you were at the spiritualist church, you
Yes.
were foretold. You were told essentially
Yeah,
way back during the first Gulf War, or before the first Gulf
Okay.
War, that you were going to encounter a
Something-
severe event,
Something interesting.
which you had an interesting experience with.
Yep.
Could you elucidate to that in a form that would not compromise anything?
I
To
still
put
think
into perspective your encounter with the blue.
the encounter is that, I mean, because I'm a mechanic, I think of things logically, and I just say, because you get a lot of, when you do this sort of thing, I mean, everybody knows this who does this sort of thing, experiences, that people always say, including the before people, when you speak to them, they say, you know there are other explanations for this, it's not what you think. And they will leave you with this guilt thing, like you're making a big mistake and you're making a total idiot of yourself. So I worked out, okay, and I always say, I introduce myself as being the ultimate skeptic. You know, and I've got a 1925 Oxford English dictionary, which belonged to my father. It was given when he was a boy. And it actually says skeptic, the original Conan Doyle version, someone who does, like Sherlock Holmes, that does not void any other idea, but only presents the relevant information that has to settle on the sum total of the relevant information until something else superior supplants itself. And I just say, class me as a skeptic, and that doesn't mean the modern interpretation of skeptic. That means somebody who doesn't believe in anything, and I would interpret that as being a bigot, you know, somebody who is enlightened with, you know, science that says, no, that's not real. No, you can't say none of this is real or not real, but you must say what you believe. And we believe this is real until proven to the contrary. So I'm working on that balance of constant balance, redressing the balance all the time.
So you were warned, or you were told that you're going to experience something pretty shocking.
Yes.
And then you had the experience of this particular government, and then after that shocking experience with that particular government, involving, as you would say, James Bond type things.
All a bit sort of peculiar to me, because I
Can you elucidate to that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is obviously.
Are you prepared to talk about that?
No, I mean, this is with this thing with the government. I mean, I'm still saying I don't know what I've got involved in. I don't know what to think about this, and you don't know what to think. You don't think anything. Now, I used to live at Windsor at this point, and I would go back from Windsor to Bexley Heath weekends. At weekends.
Bexley Heath is west.
Bexley
East
Heath
London.
is
Windsor is
southeast. Yeah, southeast London. Windsor is west of London. It's about 45, 50 miles away from Bexley Heath. So there's a fair distance you have to travel through central London. So on a Friday night, I would go home and stay with my parents, or my mother, because my father had died before that point. And a strange thing happened one night, and my mother would wait for me, you know, upstairs, and she would call down, because she was quite ill at the time, and she would call down, can you bring me a cup of tea up and we'll have a little talk before you go to bed, you see, and I'll speak to her, we'll talk tomorrow as well. So she said, there's something you're not telling me. Now she knows absolutely zero about this, and she said, now let me say that she had had one eye removed due to cancer, so she could only see out of one eye. But she said, I'm an old woman, she was in her 80s, she said, there's something you're not telling me, isn't there? She said, who are the two people sitting in the Mercedes further down the road, watching this house and watching you get out of your van as you park the van up? One speaks to the other one, and they've done this at least 3 or 4 times already. So I don't know. She said, yes, you do. You're not telling me something. And she said, there's something. And when I explained what we got involved with, she just could not believe it, that I would be that naive to get involved in it. I decided I wanted to see how far this would take us. And she said, now you know. That we read in the paper that, you don't believe everything you read in the paper, but I think that's correct, that this is how dangerous the whole situation was, that the Saudi people were so secure with their dealings, and so were the Iraqis, that the Iraqis would have spies in London checking things out, you know, sending information across and so forth, all this type of stuff you see in the Bond films, and this is way beyond me. But apparently, I think it was one of the Sunday papers, my mother said to me, now do you believe how dangerous is this? And she said, read this. And one of the Iraqi chaps, the spies, was called to a meeting in a London restaurant, you see, and he just said he was such a long time away from home. He wanted to speak to an Arab girlfriend, you see, and the other two chaps said, well, we've got this pretty Arab woman in the car outside in the Mercedes. You know, all you need to do is go out the back alley. You can have a chat with the girlfriend, you see. See if you like to speak to the girlfriend, you can take her out. And when he'd gone out the back, one of them was waiting with a scimitar, and he cut this guy into 3 sections and put him in a wheelie bin in bin liners. And she said to me, you do know how this all ties up, don't you, Terry? She said, you've got a totally incapacitated 80-year-old woman who can't see. You're going back to work in the week. I'm sitting in here. And she said, you've got this going on around us. How can you come to terms with this? Now, the Saudi people had warned me. They knew they would know if I went to the local police station, had gone to the MI5 or whatever it is, the security services, and had discussed this. And he said to me, you would not like a visit from our chaps. This is private between you and I. Keep it that way. He said, I know if you go anywhere. So he said, keep it to yourself.
So you're talking about this now almost 17 years later? 17
years later. And with the second Gulf War, now let me explain that I lived by myself. And whilst this was building up, I'd heard of most appalling things happening. And the people who had confronted any of the Iraqis, the families were getting little visits. This was on the radio programme, and people were saying, yes, this is true. This is not out of a James Bond film. What do they call them? You know, these make-up people, like Amway or whatever these make-up type of people, you know, women selling makeup would knock on the front door, ask to see the guy's wife, you know, and a woman would pull Avon, that's the stuff, pull a pistol out of the handbag, shot dead with a silencer, put the gun back in the bag and walk off, and people were found dead in the hallway of the house.
Where?
This is in London. this was reprisal for associating with the Allies in the Gulf War. This is before the beginning of the Second War. So I thought to myself, this is getting a bit iffy, a bit strange. I'm
like
not,
Jill Dando, the Jill Dando murder.
I don't know where to stand with this. So I thought, so I don't know how to stand. I had very sensitive sinuses. So what I would do, I'd open the front door and I would just stand there and I would scent if anyone, aftershave, whatever, was in the house. I thought, is anybody in here? I'm not going in. I'll just walk back out again. And I would push the door right back. I would go into the living room and I would push the door right back against the hinges, against the other wall, and just look inside and put the light on. And I wasn't getting paranoid. I thought, I'm not that stupid to find someone sitting in here and take you out. And I had expected something really, dangerous to occur, but it didn't. Well, thank God it didn't. But I mean, you just wonder how you're going to come to terms with all of this,
So the point about this is, you were given a psychic advice that you were going to have this experience.
Yeah, because...
And then you were given further psychic advice that you're going to have experiences at Rendlesham.
Or wherever, or the follow-on that we've discussed, as they said before.
What was the connection between an external psychic knowledge and those two events?
The thing was, the way, you have to come to terms with something inside your head, and this is, I had made this connection. Sometimes you believe what you want to believe, and I don't think so. No, I think I've come to this conclusion that I was prepared not to go along with any of it. I'm going to say, no, I can walk away from this. And this psychic stuff said, you've gone too far to do that, because
you're in too deep.
You're in too deep, you've already spoken for. And I just said, no, you have free choice. I said, you might think you have free choice, but you've gone too far with all of this to back out. This is sorted,
Why were you selected to have this present of a garage bought for you so that you'd then be under the influence of these other people?
Well, the strange thing is we were told to expect this guy. Now the interesting thing is with the whole thing, the amazing thing was I wasn't at home. I had separated from my wife at this point, and this guy traced me where I was lodging on a temporary basis on the floor in a flat, in a single bedroom flat, while this fellow and his wife had the bedroom. I had the living room floor on a mattress. The phone, after this guy and his wife had gone to work, before I'd got ready to go to work, the phone just rang, and this guy said who he was. He'd like to meet me in the workshop. And I thought, how do you work that one out? So they know the details. They've got the the sort of structure of how to get this together.
Why were you selected? A member of Joe Public. What got you involved to be? A
very interesting point. Now let me just explain one thing to you. That when I was a trainee mechanic, I'd gone from being an apprentice to semi-skilled, and the place I worked for in central London used to service and sell Lamborghinis, and they did various other exotica as well as BMW. Now in 1973, I think it was September 1973, it was the beginning of the Middle Eastern War. Now this Saudi guy, much younger, turned up to have his Lamborghini, the diplomatic Saudi Lamborghini, serviced there, and he'd gone off with the bodyguard, the armed bodyguard, to get the money from the bank. He'd run out of cheques or whatever, so he said, I'll go and get cash, so I'll come back in half an hour. And the foreman manager said to me, you'll be here dinner time, won't you? And he said, see this young boy, he was about 12, he said, this is the son of the Saudi ambassador. See, the boy doesn't wander off for obvious reasons. So the boy sat beside me in the workshop while I had my sandwiches. Now this Saudi guy said to me, you do know who the boy is? He said, that was my son. And I thought, this is amazing. And he said, I respect your concern for my son. He said, because my son said you had done the right thing at the time, So I was petrified. I thought I knew the Israeli war was. I thought we're going to expect something unpleasant here. It's an open workshop. Somebody could have walked in and kidnapped the kid, you see. But anyway, sadly enough, this Saudi fellow told me this boy was killed. He was a helicopter pilot, and I think it was in New York. He'd crashed the helicopter into a skyscraper, and it was on the news. He was the big helicopter crash. He'd lost the chopper, he'd lost control of it and flown it into the side of a skyscraper and just dropped into the street. He said, sadly enough, my son is dead. But he said, you do know me and I recognise you. He said, I know you from 1973. And he said, we trust you and we decide. He said, I thought about it. I decided I'd like to trust you all the way along the line. I thought it's bizarre. The whole thing was just a bizarre experience. And it just followed on.
So then that introduced you to them. That's how they began to trust.
That's how they. But apparently, you see, with Saudis, when they have a connection, they normally trust one person. They choose to trust one person, providing you prove you're totally honest and you're respectful. Now, the strange thing was, I'm not a Muslim. when they do trust you, they bring you into the house with an open door into the room, when it's, beg your pardon, next door to the room where they're saying their prayers. So they do the prayers the 5 times a day. And when you're brought in to that sort of environment and you can sit there while they do the prayers and they're not embarrassed, like you're one of their family, and you were getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And I could see what was happening. And it's such a diplomatic, sort of sensitive situation. You cannot walk up and say, excuse me, I beg your pardon, I really want to leave here because I don't want to deal with you anymore. Because you have to give an explanation. Because they would in return say, you know, this is an offensive thing, or have we upset you in some way?
Yeah.
And it was getting deeper very quickly, and I couldn't get out of this.
So you had this situation involving a very dangerous set of circumstances in 1991.
Okay.
And yet you were warned, or you were given information about a connection.
You see, I always take these things to prove to me whether they're real or not, as far as I can take them. And it's like getting into the cage with the so-called safe tiger. If you want to prove how safe the tiger is, you've got to open the cage and you've got to go and sit in there with it. If you're prepared to go that far, then you have to do it. You have to put your money where your mouth is. And I always do that. You know, I completely, spooked up afterwards. But I wanted to take this. I thought, if this has some basis, I'll take this as far as it can go.
So do you believe, or how do you get the connection between the Saudi situation and being trusted and the blue beings?
It's just an instinctive thing, like, because it's like a network. You know, I mean, I call them like the master chess players. I mean, people say like the greys or whatever you want, controlling everything goes on here. What I believe about that, I don't know, but I believe there is a network that controls many things. You know, the starting of the wars and the financing and the finishing of war, all this type of stuff. And it's an instinctive thing. You just know when you're being had. I just know I've been had, you know, if you want to call it being had. And I'm saying, I really don't think this is right. And sort of reactions from Brenda, like when I went down the forest first, well, I thought, I get the feeling this is a follow-on from where we were before, and a threat from her saying, be very careful you approach them on this level, like they're some sort of enemy, because you wouldn't like what follows on. And then she's not remembering what she's clairvoyantly said about 5 minutes later, and Peter Parrish not remembering because he was eating his sandwiches. So you're left with this type of strange scenario. Like, we've had a conversation here, neither you two remember what's been said. I think this is, you've been had here. You don't have to be, high IQ to work out you've been had on some level. You don't have to read too much into it.
So so you're saying that there's a connection?
I think I just feel this is this common logic between all of this, that you can't prove anything on paper, you can't prove any of this, but I just think that there is a follow-on with all of this, and that something is going down. See, I always say, like, somebody would say to me, if somebody claims to have been abducted and is like a 75-year-old woman riddled with arthritis, has had 2 or 3 operations, what would Aileen Grays want with a woman that's had all these things wrong with her? Now, what I say is, I've got a different explanation for all of this. I just say that this person, as we all do, has a life experience. Now, we all learn things through serious emotional trauma, like when a child is born, when someone dies, when you're getting married or divorced or whatever, something registers on the super level, the soul consciousness, and that going into it's just something you begin to understand. Like, this has meaning. So a 75-year-old woman would have all the life experiences. Now, you can't tap into the soul level because it's non-physical. But what I think is actually happening, and people will say, no, it's not that at all. But it's my right to think that. Whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter. It's just my idea. Now, what I'm actually saying is that quantum physics now actually says quite openly, everything you look at is not real. It's an illusion. Everything. And there's nothing that's external that's not produced from the spiritual inside. So in other words, everything you're looking at is produced externally from inside, but not in a way that we would logic in science. Science is a very sad explanation for things. So what we're saying is, the visitors know this, because I registered on that one because I've done a meditation with Brenda, and we just sensed we've been watched, and we felt we were being scanned. And she said in her mind, I'm going to speak. She said to me, I'm going to speak to them, Terry. And she said, I've asked them, there's only Terry and I here, no one else in the forest, why don't you show yourselves? And they responded, we don't have to, because we are within. And she said, I don't understand. And the basic understanding with that was, you may not understand, but the man does. They are within the soul connection. And the sort of feedback I get with there is one soul but many facets. See, you begin to think very gently for a long period of time. extend the thinking power, and it makes some sense. This that they're expanding other people's soul experience, because what they're going to do, they're going to join this together, and they're going to alter something. They're going to alter like a space-time continuum event, possibly themselves and us. How they're going to do this, I don't know, because if on that level, I know it's much more complicated than this, but on a primitive level, if everything external is produced from inside, once you access the soul point, the creating point within, you can then manipulate it, and they're experimenting with the getting within on a soul level.
The term I use is reality management.
And they're going to do something with it.
Project the reality.
And they're examining us for the doorway to get within to use it. Now, you would say, if they're going to attack this place, I never said they were going to ever. I didn't say this was bad. I just said, this is just an idea. It's best to think something, whether it's good or whether it's right or wrong. To think nothing is unforgivable. What I'm trying to express here is that if they were going to attack this place, people say, they would have done so in like the 17th century before our weaponry. No, that's got nothing to do with that. What they're doing, they're waiting for world events to take place here, where they're going to use the emotions as a toolbox. And they're going to access the spiritual with this, and then they're going to do what they want. When this is, I don't know. I just get this feedback, and I get this feedback with it, and I thought about this for a long time, and this was the point we were discussing a few days before I first went down to the forest. And this is, I'm sure, related to the point where Brenda Butler said to me, be warned approaching them on this level. It's like you've touched the sore point. Like, be warned, Terry, like, don't come funny with us on this level, you know, because you'll be asked to leave, or it'd be better if you left now. Now, when I saw what I saw, it did occur to me, like I was touching on very, very dangerous territory, and it's like, we know who you are, we know where you're at. Like, why didn't you really come and have a look then? And the whole thing just registers as like a piece, the missing piece in the jigsaw puzzle. I thought, this is heavy stuff. Really heavy stuff here. And the other thing is, when Brenda saw them in the forest, she saw a shaft of light, and there were witnesses and military witnesses. Shaft of light in the trees in the forest, and the three of them came down the shaft of light. And she described this to me. She said, you won't believe this, but she said, I ran towards the shaft of light in the trees. The others didn't seem to register what was going on.
When was this? This is last year?
No. This is 2000 or early 2001. Before I went down there, she ran towards the shaft of light, and she said the ferns that were in front of the trees were not there. You're not going to believe this, she said, but it was impassable. You could not get through there. She said they just weren't there in front of me. I ran through, she said. A friend of mine tried to follow in, she couldn't get through, so she went the long way round through the trees, and she went into the trees. Shaft of light came down, sort of ice cold light, about 3 feet wide, and three of these, just like I saw them, but they were dressed in silver, just came down the shaft of light and just stopped in front of her. And she said,
the same beings that you encountered?
Same beings.
Blue?
I don't know, but she said it was bright light, and she couldn't, I didn't know, let me explain this. I couldn't ascertain whether these were blue. I couldn't get this, but I felt that they were. But she seemed to say to me in sort of like previous conversations, like, we have never seen blues here before. So whether they were or not, I don't know. Whether they were just a different colour, because I think she's seen them as being like a chalky white colour. You know, they don't all look the same. But what we're saying here with this, the point we're trying to make is, as though they can manipulate the time and space like continuum. So in other words, if that wishes not to be there, you don't have to move it atom by atom. You could just remove to the point before it was there and just tie the two together. So then you just re-slot it and it's back there again, you know. So we're actually talking this type of being able to manipulate time and space and move things, slot things in and out. And it makes a lot of sense. Like, they can do that.
So you were discussing at the end of the last tape, you just started on a particular case. Much more recent, is that correct?
I'm not sure we were here with this. We were saying, no, I think the last one was the I'm not sure how you said this, was the injection marks. I've mentioned this, didn't I?
You started on the injection marks.
Yeah, we started the injection marks.
So let's get
we got to we just actually said, I don't think I've actually said this one. There's so many things we've experienced there, but we actually said that Brenda said there's something very odd here, and I said, it's always odd here. And she basically said sort of...
when was this?
This was about 18 months ago, about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Was this when Brenda was abducted and she went towards another portal or something?
No,
Lots of portals happening?
No, I don't think so. No,
The
she's
UFO and the triangular thing?
No, not that case, not that point. No, I just remember saying that. I just remember saying that I don't think there's anything odd here. She said, I think something is very odd here. So she's got the digital camera. She's photographed all four sides, points at a compass, and there's like a being standing in front. She said, what do you think that is? I said, it looks like a dwarf, doesn't it? Being gold light. I said, well, how do you interpret that? So I don't know. I understand any of this stuff. I said, but it can't be behind us because there are ferns there, unless it's on another wavelength, another dimension. And as we're speaking, this ball thing, about 3-5 feet in diameter, bounced out of the top of the hill up the slope, and I thought it's interesting. She saw this out the corner of her eye, and I just said, well, do you see that? She said, I saw the flash, and she said, what do you think that was? I don't know. And then as we were speaking, this thing just bounced out again, stopped in the middle, straight back into the trees. I said, I'm not sure I like the look of that. She said, something is very odd here. I think we should leave. So we went back to the car park, and up until about just before that point, I was wearing the watch on the left wrist. Now I changed the watch from the left wrist to the right wrist, you see. And Brenda had gone. I got in the car, sort of relaxed, looked at my left wrist, and I thought I'd been bitten by something. There was a tiny red swelling on one of the veins, a tiny little pinhole in the middle. I thought, insect. I thought minus 1 degree, 2 degrees. I don't think it's an insect. Maybe I've caught a thorn or something. I don't know what. I don't read too much into this sort of thing. So I've driven off, pulled over for a snooze on the lay-by before I got down to the motorway. Got down to the A12. Had to snooze for an hour or so, decided to freshen up. So I thought, I think I had gloves on, took the gloves off, took the watch off, and I thought I'd just freshen up. I had some wet ones, so I'd freshen up. I thought the right wrist feels funny, so I looked down and put two wrists there together like that, and there were two tiny pin marks on each of the veins. I thought, this is very odd. I don't feel quite right. I felt like queasy, like I've been sort of like poisoned in something, like a sort of queasy feeling. I thought, this is odd. I don't know what to read into that, so I don't read anything to it. So I carried on home. So I went home, had a little rest, rang Brenda about 9:30 the next morning, which was a Sunday morning, you see. So I just said, without leading her, how odd do you think this was down here last night? And she said to me, you mean the two injection marks you've got on both your wrists, and I have the same? And she said, on the back of my legs there are scuff marks. When I took my trousers off, I found the scuff marks, as though I put a resistance or a fight up or something, but you don't have any because you put no resistance up. And she said, do you remember zero about this? And neither do I. That's correct, isn't it? I said, that's correct. I said, how do you know that? She said, I just know that. She said, I have no explanation for it at all. And there was nothing military visible, no helicopters, nobody snooping in the trees. It's not like that. You don't read into it. Only this beautiful transparent ball bubble that bounced out. I have no explanation for any of it at all. But I looked with a magnifying glass, and there are no bruises, just this tiny swelling on the vein, and a tiny little hole in the middle of it on each wrist. Neatest puncture mark you've ever seen, like you've been interfaced with something, like you've been connected with some sort of electrical apparatus or whatever.
So you're remembering that now?
I remember thinking, I give these things lots of thought. I thought, should I read anything to this or not? I thought, well, the chances of two people, and she's not lying to me, having this on both wrists at the same time in the same place, I think it must be millions to one. I thought, you must read something into it. What? I don't know. And I noticed that the little marks disappeared after about 5 or 6 hours, and you look down again and you think, there's nothing there. You thought, this isn't right, there is nothing there, It's bizarre. I remember having this sort of thing when I was a teenager. I remember waking up, as I say, I've been an engineer since I was 16. I remember it was only a year or so, 18 months after starting work first, looking down and finding a cut on one of the wrists. I was a motorcyclist, and I thought maybe I've caught myself on the bike and not noticed it, or cut myself at work, doing engineering or whatever. Looked down, saw this cut, and I thought, this is bizarre. I woke up the next morning, and what you know, you've seen the cut, and it hurt, it thumps, and there's no cut there. And I thought, what do I read into that? And at that time I read into it, I'm quite mistaken, there couldn't have been a cut there in the first place. So I cannot go any more than that. Now I say, if I'm wrong with 90% of it, if I'm only 10% right with this, we're still talking about something.
Well, we've got the photographs.
Okay.
Could you explain these photographs?
Can I explain that?
Or talk about them?
I can just say, because we've got lots of photographs, this is like this is the time of the hour missing on the new watch. Brenda came back.
To the camera?
Yeah, sorry. Brenda came back and said, "We'll go back to the car park." come back with some waterproof clothing because it was raining, and she said, and we can go from there. She came back and she said, we came back earlier and we called to you, but you were not sitting on the chair. Neither was Audrey. I said, well, no, we've not moved. And she said, no, Terry, I thought she was just having a joke with us. And she said, you were not on the chairs. And she said, we called to you. You must have heard us. I said, no, you didn't call. She said, we called you, we're not there. Now, Audrey said, at that time, is there something very wrong here? I said, no, there's always something wrong in this place. There's always a very odd sort of feeling to it. But Audrey had taken these photographs. And I didn't think any more of it till we'd gone home. And I delivered Audrey home, and I just said, are we there a little early? It was a brand new watch, and I thought maybe I've messed around with the watch, and I'm sure that I hadn't, because I only had the watch a week. And we were about an hour early, so I'd gone home, had a rest, and I think the next morning I'd gone to calibrate the watch. I thought, what do I do? I'll put the teletext on. So I sat in front of the TV, waiting for the light, when I thought it was 8 o'clock. And I thought, we're an hour missing here, and I thought, that can't be right, maybe the watch has stopped. So I thought, I don't want to have to take the new watch back. So I thought, I'll get ready to take the watch back. I'll do that this morning, because I thought I'm not going to, invalidate the guarantee. I'll take it back straight away. There's something wrong with this, you see. So I went upstairs, looked in the drawer where several other watches were, and they're all reading, like, for example, 9 o'clock, or 2 minutes to 9. The hall clock was 2 minutes to 9. The kitchen clock is 2 minutes to 9. Teletext is coming on to 9 o'clock. The watch is coming on to 8 o'clock. And I thought, this is odd. So I rang Audrey, and I just said, I don't know how to interpret this, but there is something wrong here. There seems to be some sort of time period missing. What you're suggesting is definitely right. I don't explain it. I cannot.
And what was being suggested? To put it in a nutshell.
No, Brenda said, well, you were not there. She said, you were not sitting on the chairs. And I just thought she was exaggerating for a little humour.
So in the photographs, in the two photographs, one's a better exposure and increased exposure.
There's this,
to the other.
One's an enlargement.
Yeah, Audrey was seeing stuff, and she said, there's something there. And I'll take her. She was just taking digital pictures. Now, the response was, whilst we were sitting there, because I think it had rained, or it was raining lightly.
Actually, Terry,
Yes.
you've got it a bit wrong.
I have, sorry.
Yeah, if you remember when we were with a couple from Lowestoft, another couple from Norwich, and we were all walking down track 12, and Don was there as well. And you and I were ahead, and we were chatting away, and I turned round, because they were all following, and said, hey, they're not there.